It was a tale of two halves in the lunchtime kickoff yesterday at St. James's Park, as Chelsea came from 2-0 down to pull a draw against Newcastle United 2-2 after 90 minutes. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I will take you through the match reaction between Newcastle United versus Chelsea, how the match actually went down. Chelsea came into the game against Newcastle United full of confidence, searching for consistency and to make a statement, but met a physical and well-prepared Newcastle United, who early in the first half of that particular encounter, within 4 minutes, have actually taken the lead through Nick Waltermaid, one of their best signing in the summer. After 5 minutes of play in that particular encounter, Newcastle United have already had 5 attempts at goal, and all 5 was on target, while Chelsea had 4 attempts, no shot at goal. Coming into this particular game, Enzo Maresca set up the team in a defensive-minded approach. In my opinion, I would say Enzo Maresca was trying to be cautious. That have actually been a tactics which have actually worked for most of the game we have played this season. The same tactics was used to approach the game against Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup final. The same tactics was used to approach the game against Liverpool in the Stamford Bridge this season. The same tactics was used to approach the game against FC Barcelona in the UEFA Champions League, that Chelsea went on to defeat Barcelona by 3-0. The same tactics was used to approach the game against the league leaders this season, talking about Arsenal in the English Premier League, that ended 1-1, despite Chelsea going down to 10 men. But yesterday, in the lunchtime kickoff against Newcastle United, Chelsea began the game very shaky, no focus, disorganized, as Newcastle United were looking very sharp, full of concentration, take the game to Chelsea, and were having everything going their way. In the 4th minute of that particular encounter, Nick Waltermaid gives Newcastle United the lead, and Newcastle United went up 1-0. Chelsea were still searching to see how they can get their feet and their balance in the game, but Newcastle United were not done, as they were coming all out against Chelsea. And in the 20th minute, Anthony Gordon with a beautiful assist, and Nick Waltermaid, tall, huge and hefty guy, stretched his leg, beat Wesley Fofana to actually put the ball at the back of the net. It was 2-0 at this point in time. Chelsea trailed at St. James's Park, looking confused, looking disorganized, looking disjointed, as if there was no tactics in place going into that particular game. But in all, what I saw in that particular game, within the first 20 minutes played at St. James's Park, Chelsea paid so much respect to Newcastle United. The reason I can't explain why that was done. But Newcastle United took the lead in the first half, 2-0. Chelsea, despite not being in that particular game in the first half of that game, their indiscipline actually called for question. As first half ended, Newcastle United 2, Chelsea 0. But then, Chelsea were already up with 4 yellow cards in the first half, as Malo Gusto got booked for an argument. Alejandro Garnacho and also Robert Sanchez also yellow card in the first half of that particular game. And also the team manager, talking about Enzo Maresca, was shown a yellow card in the touchline. Chelsea came into the second half of that particular game blazing differently, a complete different Chelsea. And the question I asked myself, the way we started the game in the second half, what stopped us from starting the game in the first half that manner? Chelsea looked a different Chelsea completely. And in the 49th minute, Cole Palmer was brought down almost close to a 30-yard way to the Newcastle United goalpost. And Reece James, the team captain, stepped forward to take that beautiful free kick that actually beat Ramsdale into the net. Beautifully taken by Reece James, and Chelsea came back into the game with a beautiful free kick from Reece James. At this point in time, it was 2-1. Now, Enzo Maresca made a quick tactical change, which in my opinion was spot on. Before the game, in my predicted 11, what Enzo Maresca did in the second half was just the prediction I made for my predicted 11. Because Chelsea came into this particular game in our usual 4-2-3-1 formation. In goal was Robert Sanchez. The fullback was Marc Cucurella in the left back, and Malo Gusto in the right back. The centre back pairing was Wesley Fofana and Trev. The best centre pairing we have had so far this season. The midfield pivot, Enzo Maresca decided to go with Moses Caicedo, deploying Reece James to partner Moses Caicedo in the midfield pivot. The attacking midfield through. The left wing was Alejandro Garnacho. The number 10 role was Cole Palmer, and the right wing was Pedro Neto. Up front was Joao Pedro. So in the 54th minute, Enzo Maresca took off Malo Gusto and brought in Enzo Fernandez. At this point in time, Reece James, the team captain, has fallen back to the right back position, which is originally his preferred position as a footballer. Then Chelsea game completely changed. The tactical approach to the game was completely different. And Chelsea at this point in time began that pressing game against Newcastle United, which we are definitely known for, with Marc Cucurella revolving into the midfield, adding that additional attack threat that Chelsea needed in the game. And Chelsea actually took the game to Newcastle United. Chelsea were all blazing in the second half of that particular game. And also in the 68th minute, Robert Sanchez with a beautiful ball from the goalkeeper into Joao Pedro. Joao Pedro beat his Newcastle defender, took the ball one-on-one with the goalkeeper and slot it behind the net. It was beautiful to see Joao Pedro getting Chelsea the equalizer at the 68th minute. And Chelsea began to press on. Chelsea began to press, looking for that winning goal in that particular encounter. And in the 79th minute, when the game was looking more tense, because it became an end-to-end football from Newcastle United and Chelsea Football Club. So Enzo Maresca pulled off Cole Palmer, brought on Andre Santos. Andre Santos now became the two midfield pivot alongside Moses Caicedo, while Enzo Fernandez advances to the number 10 role. And Chelsea began to add more pressure, put more pressure on the Newcastle defense line, looking for that winning goal in order to secure all 3 points from St. James's Park. But then the game went on, and Chelsea ended up that game coming from 2 goals down to play a 2-2 draw against stubborn and physical looking Newcastle United. Going into the game, personally in my preview, if you didn't watch my preview coming into this game, check my previous video. Thank you so much for watching. Much appreciated. Coming into this game, I knew it was definitely going to be a tough one because Newcastle United at St. James's Park, it's a different team entirely. Chelsea went to St. James's Park, got a 2-2 draw against Newcastle United. Am I happy about the draw? I can't say. But am I angry that we draw? Not at all. Coming from 2 goals down against Newcastle United, in front of their own fans that were actually searching for that home dominance, and Chelsea defied 2-0 down to actually end up pulling a 2-2 draw against Newcastle United. The game ended at St. James's Park. Newcastle United 2 and Chelsea 2. Earlier I said it was a tale of 2 halves in that particular encounter, and the statistics is what actually showed us that particular game. Now let's take a look at the statistics that went down in that game between Newcastle United versus Chelsea. In the first half of that game, expected goal by Newcastle United was 1.97, while Chelsea expected goal was 0.24. Big chances created in the first half. Newcastle United created 6 big chances in that particular encounter, and Chelsea created 0 big chance. Chelsea didn't create any big chances in the first half of that particular game. Robert Sanchez in the first half of that game pulled 3 saves, because at one point in time in the game, Newcastle United have had 5 attempts at goal and all 5 were on target, and Robert Sanchez were able to save 3 from that 5, and 2 were the goal that Newcastle United actually scored. So if we take a look at the statistics in the first half of that game, it was a total dominance by Newcastle United. Newcastle United played Chelsea, dominated the game in the first half. But coming into the second half, it was a different Chelsea. Whatever team talk Enzo Maresca actually gave to the team coming into the field in the second half, man, kudos to Enzo Maresca. The team talk actually worked, and that actually gave Chelsea the opportunity to pull back, to come back from that 2-0 down to draw the game 2-2. If we take a look at the second half statistics, expected goal ratio for Chelsea became 1.02, and for Newcastle United it was 0.29. Big chances created in the second half, still 1-1, because Newcastle United still created big chance in the second half, 1, as Chelsea also created 1. And in the second half, to tell you how dominant Chelsea became in that game, Enzo Maresca, Robert Sanchez, talking about the Chelsea goalkeeper, went on a sabbatical leave as no saves was made in the second half, while the pressure was now on Newcastle United, and Ramsdale was able to pull 2 saves in the second half of that particular encounter. And if we take a look at the passes, it was pure dominance by Chelsea. 222 passes for Chelsea and 168 for Newcastle United. Now, if we take a look furthermore in the first half, Newcastle United had 7 shots, 7 attempts at goal. 5 on target, while Chelsea had 4 attempts at goal, no shot on target. That was complete dominance by Newcastle United in the first half. Chelsea had no shot on target for 45 minutes of play, and this is the second time this is definitely happening. In the game against Bournemouth, when we played goalless draw at the Vitality Stadium, Chelsea, after 45 minutes in the first half, had no shot on target. The same play out at St. James's Park yesterday, and Chelsea had no shot on target in the first half. 7 attempts at goal for Newcastle United, 5 shots on target, while Chelsea had 4 attempts at goal, no shot on target, and 2 shots off target, while 2 were blocked shot. So, going further, if we take a look in the second half, the statistics actually turn. Total shot, Chelsea had 9 shots attempts at goal in the second half, while Newcastle United had 4. Chelsea had 4 shots on target, while Newcastle United had 0 shots on target in the second half. Now you see why I said it was a tale of 2 halves. The statistics that played out in the first half was in favor of Newcastle United, turned to be in favor as Chelsea came out blazing in the second half. Total dominance took Newcastle United up at St. James's Park, and Chelsea went on to actually drew that particular game. Now, take a look at the passes, how the game was actually played. If you take a look at that graphics there, 47% of the game was played in the midfield, 28% in the box of Chelsea in the first half, and 25% in the half of Newcastle United. Accurate passes. In the first half, Chelsea had only 158 passes, still have more passes than Newcastle United, while Newcastle United had 148 passes. But then, they were more clinical, more focused in the first half of that game than Chelsea. Now, again, balls in the final third. Chelsea had 23 balls in the final third, as against Newcastle United 21. But Newcastle United still have the edge, as they were very precise in the first half whenever they are going forward. The threat was much compared to Chelsea. Long balls from Newcastle. Out of 23 long balls, 11 was successful. The long ball rate for Newcastle United was 48%, while Chelsea, out of 31 long balls, only 8 was successful. Now, crosses. If we take a look at the crosses in that particular game, Newcastle United were able to cross in 7 balls out of 15 attempts, having 48%, while Chelsea only had 20% of the crosses that came in from attempts of crosses. And that actually means the Newcastle defense line in the first half of that particular game never allowed not even Pedro Neto or Alejandro Garnacho to actually add time to bring in balls into into Newcastle 18 box. If we take a look at the second half, the same approach to that particular game. 47% of the game was still played in the midfield. Now, accurate passes for Chelsea became 187, and for Newcastle United, 125. Now, balls in the final third. Chelsea have 24 balls in the final third, while Newcastle United have 25. But the 24 balls Chelsea had in the second half in the final third was more precise, because this time around, Chelsea poses more threat to the Newcastle defense line than they actually did to our defense line. If you take a look at the long balls, out of 26 long balls, 8 was successful. Chelsea had 31% of long balls into Newcastle United half. And also, out of 20 long balls by Newcastle United, only 5 was successful, as they had 25% of long balls. Now, crosses. Chelsea only had 1 cross into Newcastle United box, as we had out of 13, only 1 cross, 8% of that. Same with Newcastle United, only 1 cross was actually made in that game in the second half. So, it was an interesting second half, because what we saw in the second half actually called for question. Why didn't we start the game the way we started it in the second half? Chelsea gone blazing at St. James's Park in the second half of that particular game. And I must say, the mentality of the team captain, talking about Reece James, is awesome. Reece James is definitely leading by example at this point in time. If we take a look at the goal Reece James actually scored, what a beauty of a free kick. The free kick was beautiful. And that goes to show Reece James Ground, or Reece James Park, whichever way we choose to call it. Because St. James's Park has always been one ground where Reece James definitely always score goals. The last time we defeated Newcastle United at St. James's Park was in 2021 October. We defeated them by 3-0. And Reece James got a brace in that particular encounter. And Jorginho actually got the 3rd goal from the penalty spot. So, Reece James last night, yesterday lunchtime kickoff was awesome. Alejandro Garnacho, it was good to see. Pedro Neto, Joao Pedro, wow! I was expecting Joao Pedro to actually score yesterday, and it didn't disappoint. This is just what we want to see. Because if we take a look at how Joao Pedro scored that second goal, having won that ball from the Newcastle defender, it was a one-on-one attempt, and confidently, he didn't miss it. He slotted that confidently into the net to actually give Chelsea the equalizing goal. And I think generally in the second half, the team performed excellently well. Reece James was awesome. Enzo Fernandez, wow, coming in as a substitute, turned the entirety of the game, gave Chelsea a new direction, actually bring Chelsea. He brought that stability in the midfield, and Chelsea began to dictate play against Newcastle United. Enzo Fernandez was a phenomenon when he actually came up from the bench in that particular game, and Chelsea was just everywhere. We'll take a look at Marc Cucurella. First half was not a pleasant one, but in the second half, Marc Cucurella came out blazing as usual. Arguably the best left back in the English Premier League, and as usual, he never actually disappointed. And he actually showed Anthony Gordon that then he is just the best left back in the Premier League. He is just the best left back in the Premier League. Moses Caicedo, ever presence in the midfield. His presence is one thing that Chelsea always want to have when it comes to that Chelsea midfield. Is, I mean, one man that effortlessly is always in the game, putting himself on the line to actually ensure that the team gets that needed defensive coverage that he actually has. But that was not what we saw in the first half of that particular game, as all the team performed poorly. But in the second half, it was a different Chelsea entirely, and Moses Caicedo definitely had a decent game. Chelsea went to Newcastle United at St. James's Park in the lunchtime kickoff, and the game ended Newcastle United 2, Chelsea Football Club 2. Reece James, the man of the match in that particular encounter, well deserved, and I must say, team captain, leader by example. It was phenomenal. And to Enzo Maresca, big ups to you. Whatever team talks you actually gave the team coming into the game in the second half actually worked. Keep it up. But we hope to see the team begin matches with this same mentality they started with in the second half. So what do we make of the match that went down yesterday as Newcastle United and Chelsea played a 2-2 draw at St. James's Park? Drop your thoughts down below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and catch you in my next video. Bye.